Doom, the new Doom is really good. I just absolutely loved it, and this is going to be one of the very few games I'm going to want to replay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm usually not a guy who, like getting back earlier, that likes to replay games. I don't I like I have my certain seminal favorites like Heart of Darkness that I could beat in 2 hours if I would need to, or like a Snatcher that I could beat in an afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
But like, and I go back and I play those every once in a while, or I'll play
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
original Contra.
you're like comfort games.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
those,
yeah, Contra's like a real quickie. Like for you it would be Contra, for me it would be like Streets of Rage 2.
yeah. Well, no,
Like,
Streets of Rage 2 is one of my favorites
oh,
too.
there you
I
go.
mean,
But
yeah.
it's just one of those games where it's like, you know what I feel like doing? Beating a game. Like that'll be the one.
Yeah, so I don't go back and I play and just play certain games recreationally, like just to play a game, so because I like it. I kind of just go to move forward and move through my backlog, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but every once in a while, I like playing my favorites, and this new Doom game is actually going to be one of my favorites that I go back to just to play.
That's awesome.
And like I'm actually going to go back and play it on higher difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
And I never do that. I usually play games on normal, because I think that's how they're meant to be played. But certain games, because most games like turn up the bullshit factor.
Yeah, enemies take more damage, deal more damage, and it's just like,
That's not what I
okay,
want out of a
yeah.
harder experience. What I
Well,
want is
that's the thing. It shouldn't be the same game, but it takes longer.
Yeah, no. Most games do that very poorly. Like in the Halo games, for instance, if you put it on Legendary, you're just gonna walk around and get sniped the whole time, and it has nothing to do with your skill. It has everything to do with almost like you're rolling the dice.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't. No, that's not fun.
Yeah,
Like,
that's not challenge. That's just like, I mean, it's hard, but
yeah,
it's not like challenging like you as a player.
like I told you this about I love Contra games, and Contra Rebirth actually has completely new enemy behaviors when you turn up the
Oh
difficulty.
yeah, I remember those stupid robot llamas just suddenly become enemies, and so instead of background decorations, you actually have to shoot off their heads and continue to ride their bodies.
When I played that on hard difficulty for the first time, I just about died. I thought it was hilarious, and it
Mm-hmm.
was an amazing experience. And that's what I want from something like that. And Doom is best played when it's difficult.
Yeah,
Um,
like I actually don't know about New Doom, but Old Doom would like have more enemies. I don't think they dealt more damage. I just think there was more stuff to deal with, which was kind of cool.
well, that Doom, the new Doom, is very much almost like a resource management kind of game.
Mm-hmm.
When you break it down to it, you have to continuously kill enemies to gain health back because you're being beat the crap. You're being beat to
Yeah.
crap. So like you get more health by doing the glory kills. Well, you
Mm-hmm.
need to stagger a guy to do glory kills. And so you need to constantly do this. You have to constantly move on to the next guy and stagger more guys and stagger more guys. So it becomes like a combo.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing a combo. So you're doing all these things and trying to get. You're also trying to get. You have to see if you need to use your chainsaw to get more ammo too for the gun that you're using. That's most effective for your situation. And certain guns are better against certain enemies.
Mm-hmm.
So. The original Doom is a bit like that. It doesn't have the health mechanic.
No, but like you really do need to watch out for like, is this a better time for like, you never have enough shotgun shells because the shotgun's like your primary weapon. So it's like, is this really a time for shells, or would I be better off with bullets? And even then, do I want to throw them around everywhere, or do I want like pistol shot for more careful accuracy?
Exactly.
Rockets, cells.
And I kind of told you this, that I kind of liken the original Doom to like a first-person Smash TV. Because you have an arena.
In a way, yeah.
You have an arena, and you have to get through the arena by killing enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, you don't have to, but you'll get wrecked.
well, in the new Doom, it's even more like that, because you have to kill them in order to progress. So you have to, in many of the situations, I shouldn't say all of them, but you have to. Some of the situations you need to kill the enemy to move on.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the new Doom is so good at this. In many ways, it's kind of like they took some cues from Brutal Doom in that way. But I absolutely love it, and I can't wait to play it on a higher difficulty. And there's always something for me to do, even after beating the game, because you can level up your perks.
Right.
And there's tons of different types of perks. Like you have these ones that are like runes that you get by doing these challenges, and the challenges were fun to me. I really like them. But then you have to level up the runes by doing specific types of actions. Like you do so many headshots with this certain gun or whatever. Then you have to level up your guns with these tokens, and then once you level them up with the tokens, then you have to level them up the same way that you level up your runes. You have to do specific actions with those guns, which is pretty neat. So you have to go into a level where that kind of context in which to use those weapons would happen. Like you have to kill like 5 mancubi.
Yeah, so you need to find a Mancubus room.
So you need to find a level that has 5 mancubi in it.
Sure.
Like it's just so much fun. Like I haven't played a game like that in years. That was that addictive, and that was this level. Like it's almost like playing like Nuclear Throne or like Binding of Isaac. Is like I kind of just want to play it to play it.
Sure.
And even though it has a story and a progression and getting through it, I still want to play it just for its mechanics alone.
Yeah, it's still fun enough where you could just like go in for a few minutes and just cause havoc.
Yeah, so I had to mention that because I love it so much. I know you'll get to it eventually. You want to get it on a new PC whenever you get that done,
I
right?
prefer a PC just because it's Doom.
Yeah.
You know, like I could get Doom on console right now, but like it's Doom. I've always played it with a keyboard. In this case, I would be using a keyboard and a mouse. Doom 3 had that as well.
I played it on PC, but I used a controller because you know how my setup is. I have a really nice gaming PC attached to
where it
my
makes
TV.
sense. Yeah.
But I'm also not like a mouse elitist either, so I don't care.
Normally I'm not like with BioShock, for example. I played it on console. I don't care, but like this is just because it's Doom. You know, like I've played Doom since I was a kid. I'm gonna continue to do it that way. You know,
yeah.
Same goes for Deus Ex. When Mankind Divided comes out, I gotta play that on PC. You know, like it's Deus Ex.
That's kind of like when Telltale came out with like the new Monkey Island game. You can technically play it with like a controller or whatever, but I'm gonna play it with a mouse.
Yeah, it's an old school LucasArts point and click. I'm gonna point and click.
Yeah, exactly. So as far as video games, that's what I'm up to. Oh, one other thing. So we've had this long odyssey of upgrading our Sega Saturns. I wanted to tell you this.
Bringing that up, yeah.
So, for anybody who is interested, I have put what's called we have both at this point put in something called Array into our Saturns. It's RHEA.
Well, there are two names. We just happen to have that particular model.
Yes, that's correct. But it's an optical drive replacement, essentially.
Yeah, but basically, to put this very simply, you had mentioned flash carts before. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, for the listeners, in case you aren't familiar with a flash cart, it's basically a cartridge for a particular video game system. Like, it goes in like a normal cartridge would. Like, you could have a Super Nintendo flash cart, for example, and it's basically just an empty Super Nintendo cartridge, but it's designed in such a way where it has the capability of accepting an SD or an SDHC card, where you just put ROMs onto the card, put the card into the cartridge, and then you could basically select from the ROMs you have. So you could theoretically play the entire SNES library. Obviously, you're supposed to stick with games that you have, like you own legitimately, or would never otherwise get. Although I think people are starting to allow you to fudge it a little bit for like the overly expensive games that never came out here, or
sure,
that you don't have a chance of getting anywhere. Like, if you
want to play Dragoon Saga.
Well, yeah. I mean, so like for people, I think there's going to be a little leeway for that. So we basically have the equivalent of a flash cart for the Sega Saturn. I mean, it's not a cartridge because it's a CD-based system, but the principle is the same.
Yeah, so essentially we removed the
Yep.
optical drive because eventually these things are also going to break. They have moving parts, and they don't make them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I might add that the discs are going to rot eventually. All optical media, your CDs, your laser discs, your Blu-rays, are all put together. There are actually several layers to them that are all glued together.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, the glue degrades. I hate to burst anybody's bubble who's a big video game collector. I am one as well, but eventually your optical discs will not work.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like, I mean, again, for fairness, like it's not like tomorrow.
It'll
You know,
take years.
yeah,
It'll
you
take
you
years.
we could still play our PS1 games and our Sega CD games. You know, it's gonna take a damn long time, but like your grandkids might have a problem. You know,
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
yeah,
So digital media.
yeah. I mean, so what I'm trying to say is that in order to preserve this kind of thing, I think it's important for a number of reasons. One of them being archival. Like these are games that are part of history, and you wouldn't be able to play them otherwise.
Yeah,
That kind of
and
thing.
again, speaking of which, like I said, like you could play games that never came out in your country or whatever. But one
Yes.
advantage is you in particular have gotten, for example, fan translations of
Yeah.
games that never came out. So like we would not have had a chance to play them on official media unless we had no problem just not understanding a word that was being said,
Yeah.
or prototypes of games, or demos or things of that sort.
Yeah. I
So
mean, we were playing Sonic Extreme on actual hardware, which is really neat.
yeah, it's and for the record, Sonic Extreme is a game that never came out. There's just basically like a test room. That's really all it is. But hey, it's a thing that exists. And also there's like weird stuff that you didn't think exist, but it does. Like there's a horror game for Saturn called Deep Fear, which only came out in Japan and Europe, but a U.S. version was actually made, just never released. So you could play the U.S. version. You know, like what's more famous might be Thrill Kill for the PlayStation 1. That's a game that never came out, but it's finished and it's online. So it's basically like, what if you could play Thrill Kill? Like, I mean, with Thrill Kill, you could burn a disc, and it's easier to play a burned disc on a PS1 than it is a Saturn. But the principle is the same. You know, what if you actually could play Thrill Kill on your PS1, not an emulator? It's kind of like that. Like, what if you could play American Deep Fear on the Saturn? Like, so the SDHC stuff allows it to be readily accessible.
I also, like playing it on the original hardware compared to emulators because number one, it's a more authentic experience. You can use your controllers and
Yeah,
that kind of thing. But also, emulators are traditionally a pain in the ass. They're homebrew projects. They're made by programmers and small time guys. Sometimes the UI isn't very good. The user interface isn't very good, and a lot of times you have to use like weird drivers. Not all of your games may work.
yeah, that's the thing. Like, well, with Nintendo and Super Nintendo games, you're probably gonna have an all right time.
Yeah, Genesis, you'll be all right.
Yeah, but even as far as PS1, you might need to do some tweaking if there's ever that weird like wave effect, like a heat wave or something. And like PS2 gets wonkier, and I don't think there even are PS3 emulators yet. It's hard to emulate some stuff. So
Yeah,
like, how about you just play it on the intended system, even if it's not on the store-bought disc, especially if such a disc doesn't exist.
exactly. So
Like, you're never gonna go to the store and buy a disc of freaking 5 minutes worth of Sonic Extreme.
So getting back to the Ray that we
Yes.
bought, the optical disc replacement. So I bought one way before you, and
Yeah, coincidentally, like, it became available to me like 2 weeks after you made me aware that it existed.
well, the thing about these things is they're homebrew projects.
Yeah.
Again, they're kind of like with emulators. They're made by people that are just having
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, super fans.
Yeah, that are technical wizards. So they came out with this thing, and then they released it to other people that want to do it, and they're probably not making very much money doing it, which is the shame of it because they're working miracles.
Yeah.
But they can be expensive, but that's because they're made in small batches. They're handmade, for the most part. Um, like people don't even realize that. They're only making a very small profit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's made by homebrew people, and they're doing it because they love it. For the most part. And so I did it, and I got all the technical things out of the way, so you really didn't have to do it.
Yeah, I had the very much to the point where I almost feel guilty, like easier path.
Yeah, but no,
Because you did all the work.
I wanted it to be easy for you because it was so hard for me.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, just to give you folks an idea, this thing doesn't have a menu system built into it. It's actually made just to play one game at a time on one.
Yeah, that's the thing. This isn't just copying and pasting your ROMs into the card and then it just works. Like, you need to be able to access them, and yeah, there's a program for that. Like, literally the program is a menu. So when you turn on your Saturn, a menu will come up where you could choose the game instead of just playing the first file automatically.
And I might add that the menu is made by a super fan of the super fan thing. Like, the menu is made by somebody else.
Yeah, so if you had used without the menu program, you would actually have to delete the file on your card and put the other one up above it or whatever.
There's a switch, so you.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the CD change button.
You hit the button and then the next one on the list plays. So if you have to remember like let's say if I want to play Mega Man 8, like a copy of Mega Man 8, but I know it's the 10th game down. Every time I start up my system, I have to press that disc switch system 10 times, and I have to remember that.
Yeah, and not only that, but you have to sit through the change. Like,
exactly.
Wait, new game. Nope, wait, new game. Keep going. And if you have 50 games or whatever, that could be a royal pain in the ass.
It's kind of a poor design choice. I wonder why the superfan did it that way, the guy who made it, but that's besides the point. But
I don't know, maybe he was just like, look, you can do it. Do what you want. If you have a better way, I'd love to hear it.
My assumption is that he didn't want mass piracy to break out because of it. He wanted you to just play the one thing that you're playing, and then that's it.
That's fair enough.
And he probably was putting enough limitations in there to limit his accountability, maybe. So that's a theory. But anyway, I got it all working, and I got yours all working in a really awesome, convenient way, and now you have a nice library built up.
And by the way, one more thing I want to throw in regarding a shout out to you is not only did you do those two things, but normally the cards, the SDHC cards that work with this are going to be under standard circumstances, what, up to 64 gigs or whatever?
No, 32.
32. So you might have more than 32 gigs worth of stuff. So if you had that, then you'd probably need to get 2 or more cards and swap them out when you need to play other
and remember games. Which ones are on which card.
Yeah. But what you had done was you found a program that actually allows you to format like a 128 gig or something into the FAT32 format that works with the system.
Yeah.
So you allow the system to take more stuff. So you could just use one card. That's optional. But I mean, the menu system is optional too. But it saves you some grief.
Yeah. So I made this all really good, but along in this process, the whole me mentioning this was that we tried to do a different type of mod with your system before we did the Ray.
Yeah, there also is a way to. This is way out there. There's a way. The Saturn does not take burned discs. It can tell that they're burned discs, or at least that they're improper discs. It's if you put a foreign disc into a PS1, it'll be just no. So the Saturn can tell. So you had found a program where you could actually put in an action replay into the cartridge slot of the Saturn,
and that itself is a cartridge that people commonly use in order to play import games on your Saturn, which is important. For anybody who doesn't know, import has really good import games that never came to America.
Yeah, and Action Replay lets you play import games, but even with an Action Replay, it won't let you play burned games. Like
Correct.
it only really notices the official discs. So you had found a program that you can actually sort of hack the Action Replay. Like you can manipulate the data on the cartridge, like through your Saturn. It's like the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Like you're messing with it. It
looks like a DOS prompt.
Yeah, like it's like if you installed a program on like a PS2 memory card. It's just like it just feels weird to do that into something that goes into a cartridge slot on a disc-based
treating it
system.
like a computer rather than like a console. Yeah,
it's kind of like I didn't know you could reach the memory card. Like even though that's its intended purpose, you're playing a game and you could save to a memory card. It just feels weird that you can play with the memory card like via your disc-based system. It's way out there.
So, of course, all of this stuff is made by super fans as well and homebrew people. So we can never get it to work for you, even though we tried multiple ways.
I saw people online that said it worked, so I don't know if we did something wrong or if I have a weird system or something, but it's a thing we tried.
Well, what I wanted to mention is I have a different friend that lives across the country that I do other podcasts with.
Okay.
That he wanted to get this working, and I have the means to run the programs, right?
Yeah.
So because I can run these programs a lot easier than a normal person, because like normally you have to do this disk swap trick in order to get like a non-official Saturn game to work and get that loader thing that would mess with the memory card to work. Mm-hmm. Well, me having Array, I can run that without any problem. So
that's true, yeah.
So
even then we skip the trick.
So I modded his Action Replay cart with Pseudo Saturn on it, which is the program, and it of course didn't work when I sent it back to him, and I felt bad because we had shipped things back and forth, and I should have known better because like we didn't get it working with you, so what the hell?
Yeah.
So eventually I was looking through forums, and apparently certain versions of Pseudo Saturn, there's like 3 or 4, will work better with better with certain versions of the Saturn, because the Saturn has like many different revisions, and I would think naturally that the newest one would be the most compatible with everything.
So maybe that was the problem the whole time.
Well, I'm leaning towards yes, because he actually sent his system to me this time, and the cartridge. And what I did was I ran through every version of Pseudo Saturn, reflashing the card.
Oh God.
And I found the very last one that I could pick.
Of course.
I chose like I gave him one with the newest one, which is it's Pseudo Saturn 0.903, I think, is the newest one, and 0.903 didn't work. So then I went back to 0.90, then 0.901, that didn't work, and then I was like, okay, well 0.902. Let's see. And 0.902 works perfectly with his system, and I got like Revolution X running on his system on a burned copy of
just what I would have wanted.
So I'm gonna send that back to him. Like, here, man, my cherished burned copy of Revolution X. Music is
the weapon.
The weapon.
now you too can get the card keys through that like CRT monitor. He just gives them to you.
So he'll be excited to receive that. So
for sure.
I just wanted to tell you that we could have made it happen if we needed to have. At this point, you don't need to.
At this point, there's the more convenient solution, but it's still really cool that that's actually a viable option.
Yeah. So that's what's going on in my like. I love to tinker, and that was the thing that I was tinkering with this week. So I'm sure I'll have a new project to work on.
Oh yeah. Always is something. There, I mean, you're well, not you. I mean, you also got that like a flash card, I think, recently from the Too Many Games Con.
Yeah, so I got I have almost all of the current EverDrives, but there's only a couple of them that I don't have, and they're like the ones I less care about. but I have them almost all. I have all of them now except for the Game Gear one because I don't care.
Really? You don't want to play all those cool Game Gear games?
There's a couple good ones. I'm not going to say there's no games worth playing on the system, but
There are, but like, come on.
there are barely any.
Yeah.
There are barely any, and I had a Game Gear when I was a kid, so like, get off of me.
Yeah.
I had a Game Gear when I was a kid, and it wasn't good back then, and it's mostly because of the battery life, but it's also because most of the games weren't that great.
I sure hope somebody makes a Gamecom flash drive.
Yeah, so I don't have that, and I don't even own a Game Gear, even though I own a whole ton of systems. It's just not on my radar. If I'm going to play a Game Gear game these days, I'll probably play it on an emulator, so I can, just play it. Or I'll play it on the 3DS. So, like, there are a few Virtual Console Game Gear games on the 3DS.
Yeah, and there are also some specific games like I think like Sonic Adventure 2 for the GameCube, for example, that have a couple of the old Sonic Game Gear games on them, like little weird extras like that.
There are also a few people that have modified Game Gear ROMs to work on Sega Master System.
Oh,
as
that's
well.
cool. That's cool.
So, like, actually, pretty much all of the really good games for Game Gear, like, there's this really good shooter that's part of like the Musha series. I don't know if you know Musha or Zanuck or Gunnak.
I've heard of Gunnak. I might have heard of Zanuck.
How about Blazing Lasers?
That sounds vaguely familiar.
Okay, that's one of the best shooters for TurboGrafx 16.
Okay.
Well, they're made by this company called Compile. They also made the Puyo Puyo series.
Right.
You know Puyo Puyo.
Yeah, that's one of the first like cute 'em ups.
Well, Puyo Puyo is a puzzle game. It's like Tetris or something. Like Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine is Puyo Puyo.
I was way off. What was the cute Sega shooter?
You're thinking of Fantasy Zone.
No, not that one. Oh, well, what's the character's name though? The little cute.
Oh, Opa.
That was what it was. Opa.
Okay. Now I know what you're trying to think.
Yeah. Puyo Puyo was that like blobby game where you're matching colors.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You've played. I'm sure you've played Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. That was a reskin of Puyo Puyo 2.
Yeah, I haven't played it, but
you know what it is.
Yes. Yeah.
Kirby's Avalanche is also a Puyo Puyo game. Anyway. Compile made a really good Game Gear exclusive game called Power Strike 2.
Okay.
There was also a different Power Strike 2 on the Sega Master System that's really good, but it's a completely different game. And somebody ported it to Master System because they're very similar hardware. You probably just need to do some slight modifications.
Okay.
Game Gear actually is capable of displaying more colors than the Sega Master System because it's newer.
Oh, that's interesting.
So you can actually play Sega Master System games on a Game Gear, but not vice versa.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they actually even came out. Sega even released an official converter to allow you to play Sega Master System games on your Game Gear.
That is ridiculous. I've never heard of that.
Well, you know the power-based converter for the Genesis allows you to play Sega Master System games on your Genesis. Mm-hmm. Well, it's the same thing, only with the Game Gear.
I bet that's like, I had no idea that existed.
Yeah, so people have to modify these ROMs in order to make them work on a Sega Master System.
Mm-hmm.
So I played all the really good games that way. There are a few games that they haven't done it for, and there's not a quick and dirty solution for it. It's not like you can turn all of those Game Gear ROMs really quickly and easily into Sega Master System ROMs. It takes time and it's complicated, but you can do it. Mm-hmm. But they've only done it for a small portion of the games. There's something like, I don't know, maybe 20 games that they've done it for.
Okay.
So in keeping with that, I've been playing those Game Gear games on my Genesis through a Genesis Mega Drive.
That's super cool.
EverDrive.
EverDrive, yeah. That's kind of funny. Yeah, the Genesis is the Mega Drive.
Yeah. It's called the Mega EverDrive, the version that I have. So
that's clever.
You can play Sega Master System games natively on your Genesis with it.
Oh, that's convenient.
So I was playing Game Gear games on my Genesis.
Oh yeah, on the Master System on the Genesis. That's pretty amusing.
Exactly, but there's also some really good ones on the 3DS. There's like Shinobi.
Yeah, those will probably be the best versions.
Shinobi, one of the Shinobi's games is on there. There's a couple other decent ones that they released on there, but I doubt if they'll release any more.
Right.
But anyway, I got the Sega Master System EverDrive, and this is kind of a complete indulgence. I know I didn't need it because I can already play Master System games on my Genesis.
Yeah, you
right?
have.
I have the Mega.
Power Base, yeah.
I have the Power Base converter and the Mega EverDrive, so I don't need to. However, I got it just so I could play it on a real Master System if I wanted to. That was number one.
Yeah.
And number two, I got a special Power Base converter that somebody made that allows you to play with FM synthesis.
Yeah, there are some Master System games that have a sort of unique
an alternate
sound that like the Power Base converter won't translate to your Genesis. So this will.
Yeah, so essentially the Master System in Japan had an upgrade where you could add an FM synthesis chip and make it the quality of the music would improve. So a lot of the games have two different versions of the soundtrack on built into them.
That's rocking.
So one that's FM and one that's non-FM, and the U.S. never received this upgrade. So we had no way of playing those games like that, other than through emulators previously. But somebody made a Power Base converter alternative that adds the ability to play with FM, with the FM synthesis, and you can turn it on and off, which is neat.
That's cool. Yeah.
But the only way to take advantage of that was to have a Sega Master System EverDrive on my Genesis.
Tough.
So I could use my cartridges, I guess, of my official cartridges, but there's certain stuff I just can't get a hold of.
Right.
So I got it specifically for that, and you know what the even funnier thing is? Most of the time I don't like the FM.
Oh, that's funny.
Versions of the songs.
It's more just so you can have the option if you ever want to exercise it.
Exactly, and you know the way I am. I kind of like it just because it's cool.
Yeah.
And because I have the option to do it, not necessarily because I'm going to do it that way, but I like to have the choice. I like to. Also, my opinion might change over time. I might actually find that I like it after hearing it longer.
Not to mention,
it's
also cool even for like educational purposes.
If
you're ever to do like a comparison video or something, kind of like Castlevania 3 on the NES versus the Famicom.
Yeah.
Like just listening to level 1, it's like that's a whole other world of music on the Japanese version.
Yeah, and both sound great, but the Japanese one is so much better.
There's more to it. There's like extra layers of instruments.
It's like listening to a quartet versus a whole symphony, a symphonic orchestra. It's a different experience.
Yep.
And that's really it. I got that, and I'm happy that I have that ability now. And I also pre-ordered the GBA EverDrive, which is awesome. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, in my case, I don't have any EverDrives, but other than the Saturn mod, I'm at this point, I guess, waiting to receive a similar treatment for the Dreamcast that I have for the Saturn. You already have not that same exact mod, but one that does the same job.
I have the competitor. I have the competitor to that one.
Yeah, but the point is you have like whatever Dreamcast game you could want to play basically on an SD card or SDHC card. So,
it's actually a 1 terabyte hard drive.
Oh, you have it on a hard drive.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I'll probably have the card treatments, but either way, like the same principle applies. So
you know what you need to check out once you get that?
Yeah.
Somebody, so there was a demo disc in Japan for Shenmue, like to tease it, Um, and people actually had to buy that demo disc. Remember when you had to
Wow.
buy demo discs occasionally, like the jam packs? Remember those?
Oh, though. Well, did you have to buy those? I thought those came with like a subscription to PlayStation Underground or
Well,
something.
sometimes they did that, but you could actually buy them in the stores too.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah, so like people actually had to buy demos back in the day, kids.
Huh.
Like or buy something else to get it, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So they wanted to tease Shenmue before it came out because it was a huge game for Sega.
That was one of the biggest games of its time.
It was the most expensive game ever made at that point. They made this demo disc called "What's Shenmue." like explaining exactly what Shenmue is. Well, they fan translated it.
Oh, get out of here.
So you will love that because you love digging through demo discs.
Yeah, not that I do it so often, but I'm really fascinated by anything that
Like
was
early versions of games and stuff.
yeah, that was changed, added into the final release that you couldn't do in the demo, or removed from the final release that you could do. Like, for example, in the Shadow of the Colossus demo, you could swing your sword while riding on your horse, but that feature was removed because
you don't need to do it ever.
when would you ever? I think it's actually completely useless. So they removed it. But it's just kind of like, hey, look at that thing I could do, but you didn't know I could do that. So it's stuff like that that just really intrigues me.
The RE4 demo, it's really, you have to equip your knife, I think.
Yeah, I still haven't played that, but that's crazy. And the Resident Evil 2 demo is noticeably different from the final product. It's like you meet Ada in the STARS office in the police station, which and meanwhile you meet her in like the underground parking lot, which you can't even get to in the demo. In the final game, that's where you meet her.
I mean,
it's little stuff like that that's just kind of cool.
If you can't tell, we're highly into like archiving and educational like
and by
pursuits
the way,
of stuff we like.
and by the way, one other thing, I don't have a Game Shark for the PS1, so I can't do this, but there's a surprising amount of content on the demo disc. Like, there's even that FMV sequence of when you put the jewels into their respective slots and like the statue opens up and drops the key. Like, that video's on there, even though you could never get to that point on the disc. Like, there's just weird stuff like that where it's like, what else is on here? Like, you could go into rooms that you have no business being in. There are like items that don't make it into the final game and they just have like placeholder names. Like there was a gun that presumably Ada might have used, but they kind of dropped it. I think it's called like the Calico gun, like the cat. And it's just weird stuff that you can never see if you just properly play the game. I'm not much of a Game Shark guy, but like that's pretty cool.
I like that even certain demos you hear years down the line actually had the entire game on the demo, and they only like slightly modified it so you can't get past a certain point. But if you had a Game Shark, you could totally just play the whole game for free.
Yeah, no, I heard that was the case for, I think it might have been like a shooter for the Sega CD or something.
Yeah.
Like they literally gave away the full game and just hoped that you wouldn't know how to play the full game.
Well, there's
so that game really undersold because everyone already had it.
The level select worked. Yeah,
that's what it was. Yeah, so like the game really undersold because it's like, why should I pay like $50 for a game when I could pay nothing?
Yeah, so like if you were playing it organically, from the start menu, you could only get to you could only beat the first level, but if you put in the level select code,
yeah, which is still in the game,
you could get past it and then play the game as regular.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I love like goofy business gaffes like that.
There are also certain. I heard there was a certain fighting game. Pretty high profile one like Street Fighter Alpha or something, like on PlayStation 1 that like on the demo disc it just has a time limit enacted. So like if you could circumvent the time limit, the whole game's on there. Yeah,
that one I had not heard of. That's pretty funny.
Nowadays, if they're gonna do demo of a fighting game, they'll only give you access to a couple characters usually.
Yeah. So and like a level or two.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't really do that kind of thing these days. So,
Mm-hmm. They're
but
a little more savvy, but it is funny though when a company like cuts corners and hopes you won't notice.
yeah, I mean, and honestly, if I was a kid, I would never even think to use a Game Shark to get around something like that.
Oh yeah,
But and especially back then, when the internet was very
yeah.
infant
Everybody wasn't
in
like
its
like
infancy.
nitpicking everything else.
Yeah, I mean, these days, that would cause
Well,
rampant
yeah. These days,
piracy.
day
Yeah,
one, people see how to break the game, and it's actually really entertaining to watch. But yeah, back then, whatever. Like some guy might have figured it out, but even if he did, it wouldn't be widespread knowledge until way later.
yeah, exactly. Like I didn't find that stuff out until like many years down the line.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no. But those are the big things that are going on in my life. Oh, one more thing. I think you might have read this in one of my posts, but I was asked by a local library
Mm-hmm.
to um, come up with a curriculum for like a cinema studies series.
Oh, sweet.
So I'll basically show a movie and then do a mini class on it
That's awesome.
after the movie, and I think I'm going to start doing that this week. And
Nice.
I'm going to start off with a popular film. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to go full on
Yeah,
like
like super
like
indie.
Japanese Dead or Alive. I'm not going to show that. But I'm going to if anybody, we're not talking about like the fighting game franchise people. We're talking
Yeah,
about like
Takashi Miike, the
a
guy who
Miike
did like
movie.
Ichi the Killer.
Yeah, it's one of our personal favorites, but I'm not going to show that to people. Like
Yeah, no,
because
that's not a movie you just pop in and watch.
yeah, but I was thinking about doing like a class on Jaws because
Okay,
it's the summer.
and it's
Um,
iconic.
it's iconic. People like it already, and people that haven't seen it might also want to see it too.
Yeah, it's gotten to the point where like you haven't heard about Jaws from your dad or anything anymore because there's kind of like a new generation who like they just really I think are probably coming in clean.
Well, also, I'm sure a lot of people have seen a lot of clips on it and know what happens in it, but they've never actually seen it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So this will give people an opportunity to see a good, popular, awesome movie. And there's enough for me to work off of also with symbolism in the movie. There's like also like there's a lot of archetypes in the movie, like there's an obvious stentor character, for
Hmm.
instance. There's an obvious hero character, there's an obvious like cleric-y kind of character. There's also like a feminism masculinity argument that you can make pretty easily in the movie.
Hmm.
You have these men that are protecting the women and children from sharks. The only sexualized character in the whole movie gets killed in the first couple seconds. Um, like in the first 5 minutes of the film, which is like the most iconic scene in the movie.
Yeah, they introduced the Jaws for the first time.
Exactly. So you can do a lot with that. I also have to preface with a masculine and feminine argument. I'm not like making judgment calls on what is masculine and feminine. I'm gonna have to say
Yeah.
this is for purposes of analyzing the film. This is a common technique.
Hmm.
I'm not making a judgment call on what the way girls or guys should be. This is just a way to read it and
Sure.
look at it. So I'm gonna. These days, it's a little. People are a little sensitive about that kind of thing, and they should be. But I have to preface that
Yeah, of
in the
course.
discussion of the film that, especially when nobody's ever looked at a text that way. So we do it regularly, but people that have never had that
Yeah,
kind of
we're
analysis of a
specifically
film probably don't know that that's like a gender discussion on a
yeah, you might not even think to look
work.
at it from that particular angle.
Exactly, and it's not the only
It's
way
like,
to
no, it's
look
a
at
horror
it
movie.
either.
The end. Like, not necessarily.
That's not the only way to look at a movie either. I mean,
Hmm.
it's just a lens in which to look at it. So I'm
Yes.
also going to be introducing topics like that, like concepts like that to
Sure.
people that probably don't actively watch movies. They probably passively watch it at best. So and most people do. They don't analyze movie. They'll just take it for what it is.
Yeah, there's not usually a lot of like what was the director thinking? Why was this shot in such a way?
Yeah, I'm also going to go
Why is there
into
a
why it
color
was made the way it
filter? Yeah,
was. Yeah, I'm also going to go into why it was made the way it was, give a little bit of history. Like, that movie's particularly interesting because it was made the way it was because of technical malfunctions. So, that's an interesting thing in its that's an interesting thing about the movie is it ended up being better because you couldn't because the camera is the shark in the
yeah,
beginning of the movie because the shark didn't work or look good.
yeah. That's
Um,
actually really great.
it's so like the director worked around a certain limitation, and it also ends up bringing a lot of depth to the movie. No pun
Hmm.
intended.
Yeah, I was
Um,
thinking.
but it brings a lot of depth. You could say, is it the sea that's fighting back? At this point, you could say, is it, it's a shark, but you only know that it's a shark because people tell you it's a shark. Like you
Yeah.
could say stuff like that. You could be
Hmm.
like, is it the sea fighting man back for treading on its territory? That kind of thing.
Sure.
It's a lot easier to say that with the way that it's filmed. Um, you can make all kinds of arguments, and I could also bring up to people that like when you're analyzing a film, you don't necessarily have to go with the author's intention. You don't have to go with the director's intention. Um, you are the one that's ascribing meaning to it by watching it and analyzing
Indeed.
it. So you are kind of actually creating your own work of art, your own version of the story by looking at it through your own eyes.
Yeah, and
Um,
this is obviously more apparent with movies that have more clear cut messages.
yeah.
The most obvious example is a propaganda film where it
Hmm.
explicitly tells you a message, and you can more you more readily detect that it is a message, and you could say like, well, I
Like
disagree with
Reefer
that.
Madness.
Yeah, like marijuana will make you go crazy and kill people, and like you could be like, oh my god, it does. I better stay away from marijuana, or you could be like, whether or not you want to touch marijuana, you could be like, that's a whole load of crap. Like, I disagree. And in some cases, like, the message is objectively false. And, like, all movies, well, or I don't know about all, but probably, I would argue at least most movies have messages like that. Like what you were saying about, like, oh, could it be the sea fighting back, or could it be humans definitively fighting against the sea? You can take either perspective here, and, like, the message isn't literally spelled out for you, but you can interpret it as such and agree or disagree with it as you see fit.
And sometimes it's just an exploration of like the movie can be an exploration of themes, or different scenes can be an exploration of themes. They may not have a definitive meaning in mind, uh, but you make your own from it. They give you the building blocks to make your meaning.
Sure.
Some authors and directors are like that. They don't want to take that away from you. They may not have a particular answer to the questions that they bring up. They just like bringing them up. They just like asking the questions like any good teacher or philosopher.
Yeah,
Um,
I can't think of a specific title that did this, but I know for a fact that there are things out there where they straight up tell you,
there is no answer,
yeah,
right?
like you're supposed to make of it
Oh,
whatever you make of it.
okay. I'll give you one. I can think of one right away. Pulp
Mhm.
Fiction.
Oh,
Pulp,
okay.
the end of Pulp Fiction. I know I'm not. Maybe this is a spoiler. I don't care. You had 30 years to watch this. Um, um, 25, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, at the end of the movie, they open up this briefcase that's been carried around by by Jules,
Yeah.
and it's supposed to be something that belongs to Marcellus Wallace.
Yeah, all you get, you don't actually see what's inside the suitcase. You see the back of the suitcase as it opens up, but you know that there's some kind of glow coming out of it, and any character that sees it is like, oh my god.
So like there's all these theories of what it could be. It could be Marcellus Wallace's soul. It could be Jules's soul. Things like that.
Yeah.
It could be and whenever Quentin Tarantino gets asked, what was it? He's just like it was a light bulb, uh,
Yeah.
which is really funny answer because that's literally what's in there. It's
Yep.
a light bulb, but. It also is an allusion to an old noir film, believe it or
Hmm.
not. There's like this old movie. It's one of the the pulp adaptations of the 50s,
Mm-hmm.
where they follow around this detective. I think his name is Mike Hammer. You probably heard of him, maybe. But anyway, he's one of the famous like hard-boiled detective characters that has
Mm-hmm.
many stories written about him. And so in one of those movies, there's a suitcase that people like marvel at when they open it and you don't see what's inside. It turns out, like in that movie, what's inside of it is uranium or plutonium,
Jeez.
and like they're supposed to be stealing it. But
Mm-hmm.
obviously, like if you open that, like it would
You're
kill
dead.
you.
Yeah.
But back then, it's just like movie magic, and nobody knows how that stuff works.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of that movie, like one of the main characters just straight up bursts into flames when they look at it.
That's
It's just
awesome.
really funny. It's like that's not how that works. They would get cancer or something. Like they don't burst into flames, but it's just really funny.
Yeah.
Like a suitcase amount of like plutonium or uranium is not going to like make you burst into flames. It might kill you like over time, like
Yeah,
being
exactly.
exposed to it, but
That's pretty fantastic.
you're not going to burst into flames.
And it also raises the question why no one else burst into flames up until that point.
Yeah, well, no, it doesn't make any sense. But
Yeah.
it's an allusion to those scenes because Quentin Tarantino is like a scholar of movies. He knows like everything about movies,
Mm-hmm.
like old movies, new movies, like crappy movies, great movies. Like he knows everything. So he's watched a lot of those type of movies, and he put that in Pulp Fiction, and maybe he had an idea of what he wanted it to mean, but.
Yeah, it's
What
more
I'm-
fun when he doesn't tell.
What I'm saying is he doesn't want you to know that. He wants you to come up with an answer. He doesn't want you to use his answer and then rob you of
Your imagination.
your imagination, because sometimes whatever you come up with is way better than what the author thought of.
Oh yeah, in that sense, it's not even necessarily what the author thought of, but sometimes it's like like usually they say show don't tell, but like if you ever have like a Lovecraftian story or anything, or like even the first Hellboy movie, it's like, oh, you don't want to unleash the ultimate being that will bring about the end of the earth or whatever, and like when the end of the movie starts coming up, you see a couple of tentacles, but then they're able to seal it back up again, and it just leaves you wondering what the hell that could have been. And especially regarding technical limitations when it comes to making effects in movies, whatever you were thinking was probably better than whatever they could have produced, especially even for a reason like lame CG or something. But like even what the actual creature could have looked like, you're probably better off imagining it on your own.
Exactly, and so
Like you don't need, like, actually going back to Jaws, Hitchcock I think famously said when he was asked to talk about his opinion of Jaws, he said it was fantastic, like right up until they showed the shark.
yeah, exactly. So like a lot. I mean, what was cool about Cloverfield is it obscured the monster for most of the movie. It made you want to see
you
the
got a
full
look,
view.
but it was like a second
But it took the
at
whole.
best. Yeah.
That was actually the climax of the movie. Is
Yeah.
actually seeing it. Like the whole point of watching the movie was to see the monster in full.
Yeah.
Because it hides it from you the whole time, and I think that's actually a really cool storytelling method. Like J.J. Abrams absolutely was making a reference to Jaws when he did that. He's a big movie nerd too. In fact, he's made references to Phantasm in the Star Wars movies.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, Captain Phasma. The reason
Yeah,
why
with
she's
her silver
chrome.
armor. Yeah.
The reason why she's chrome is because of the death balls from Phantasm, which is like a little known horror movie. I mean, horror fans know it, but like nobody outside of horror fans knows what Phantasm is.
And of course, the name Phasma itself sounds kind of similar to Phantasm.
Well, yeah, that was the point. Yeah. So, I want to bring things like this up to people. I want to.
And you have the
get them
Venture
going.
brothers. They use the spheres like for no reason.
The nozzle. But I can't wait to do this. I'm like really excited because I haven't, I haven't taught in a long time because I ended up going and doing something else.
Yeah, yeah,
So this will be my way of um, exploring my teaching itch again. So I'm
of
really
course.
excited to do it just because it's about something I love.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Makes it all the more fun.
Absolutely, and I could show my expertise in it. Um,
Yes.
so that's another thing, and hopefully meet some people that are also into it.
Oh, that'd be super cool. Yeah.
There's a social aspect to it. It's not like I'm teaching children it. It's like I'm teaching other adults it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll even go out to pizza for pizza with them afterwards, or or get a drink with them afterwards and make new friends.
Sure.
So I'm excited to do that. Those are the major things going on in my life with my nerdy version of life. So, I don't know if you have anything else that you wanted to bring up.
I mean, we are kind of getting on in time right now. So I may have stuff to talk about next time. I don't want to kind of like overdo it here, but even with that excuse aside, like not too terribly much. I'm just kind of like doing what I'm doing, recording LPs and editing them. Hanging out with friends every once in a while, doing my educational stuff over summer vacation. So like I have my occupations, but I don't know if it's like I don't know how exciting it would be to talk about.
Hmm.
It's kind of like, oh, I'm talking about vocabulary with middle school students. Okay. I mean, I could probably find a way to make it interesting, but I don't know. I guess you have a more entertaining way of elaborating your points.
Well, I guess I would probably liken it. I would probably take something that I liked about those experiences and talk about
Yeah,
them.
I mean, I could do that, but like, I guess my main thing is that like regarding even the editing and uploading of LPs, like that's not exactly gonna like change each time you ask me. So I'll have to think of something else to talk about. I could tell you about the game I'm playing, I guess. Hooray!
uh, I was sitting there on the editing floor and I
Yeah,
noticed a lot of boxes and I placed them all in order.
I did, and then I faded the black in the end, but only after fading in from black at the beginning. Yeah. Don't think
Nice,
I messed this up.
nice to solve.
Yeah, bringing that back. I mean, I guess the closest I could come to what I'm doing lately regarding the video game world is I've been playing One Piece Pirate Warriors 3,
So
and that's just
tell me,
grinding to the point, but it's entertaining.
at this point you've played a bunch of Muso games, right?
I've played Hokuto Muso 1 and 2, and I've played One Piece Muso 1 and 2, and I'm working on 3.
so I know that the Fist of the North Star Ken's Rage games, which is a really funny title because Ken isn't angry ever.
Yeah, no,
Um,
in fact, his most powerful technique is
cr-
powered by
cry.
sadness. Yeah.
Yeah, the manliest of tears.
Yes.
But yeah, Fist of the North Star. I'm not a huge fan of Dynasty Warriors in general because they're repetitive and they're about a story I don't care about.
Yeah. You know what's really cool is playing the 8th game, not including expansions, covering the Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
Yeah, I just have no connection to that. That's a primal story
I
in
mean,
Asian culture.
it's a cool story, but like, how many goddamn games are you gonna release for it?
Exactly. But people love it. It's kind of like I don't know.
Like at least with Fist of the North Star and One Piece, with each successive game, they cover more of the story. Like Romance of the Three Kingdoms, that ended quite a long time ago.
Yeah, they kind of just they do new twists on the
Yeah,
characters.
they have better gameplay
Yeah.
mechanics and stuff like that.
And they kind of change up, like they do dream matches. Characters
Yeah,
that normally never talk to each
that's
other.
the kind of thing that keeps me interested. Is Hokuto Muso 1 and One Piece Muso 2 had dream modes, which
So,
was fantastic.
uh, getting back to this, like I only and you only personally care about these Warriors games that have characters from franchises that we like.
Yeah, like there are 3 Gundam games, but like didn't follow Gundam, so I
Mm-hmm.
can't really get invested in them.
So I like Fist of the North Star as well, or Hokuto no Ken.
Yeah.
It's the Japanese name,
Hmm.
and I also like Zelda a lot. So I got Hyrule Warriors.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
looking forward to playing that one.
so those are the two that I have. Now I will get Berserk
Oh
Muso when
my
that comes
god,
out
yeah,
because
get out of my way.
Berserk is amazing, and you know how much we both love Berserk. So come on,
That is
and
going to be
it's also the
freaking.
perfect series to do a Muso game
Yeah,
with
the,
too.
the PS2 game was basically a Muso game without being a Muso game.
Exactly. So what I wanted to say here is, now that you're playing that, the One Piece one, you love One Piece, and that's why you're playing it.
Hmm.
Um, so I know with Fist of the North Star, um, the second game pretty much completely replaces the first game. It's a retelling of the same content.
Basically, I mean, like, the first game had Dream Mode, and the
Okay.
second one didn't.
Hmm.
But the first game covered up until the end of Hokuto no Ken, but the second game did that and also included Hokuto no Ken 2, which was sort of like the second saga,
Okay.
which more definitively concluded the series, by the way.
And the second one is a much better game. They just improved it
The,
a
the
lot.
gameplay is
Yeah.
way better.
So you could really tell somebody just to play the second one, right?
Yeah, like, again, unless you really care about the game, the dream mode, you could probably just play the second game.
Okay.
Honestly, like, the first one's cool for the novelty of it, but the second, if you're interested just in the story, then the second game's the way to go. And again, like you said, it plays better anyway, and you have a bigger cast of characters to choose from.
What I'm getting at here, I'll use actually the allusion to like Evil Dead. You don't need to watch the first Evil Dead movie. You could just watch the second one because
Oh, basically,
it's pretty much a remake of the first movie and then some, and it's a way better movie.
yeah.
But Evil Dead 1 has its own charms. You could go back and watch it if you're a super fan,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's pretty much a remake, and the second one has all the humor that the series is known for.
Yeah, yeah. The first one was pretty much
Straight.
indie
Yeah.
horror.
But the second one's the one where Ash gets his
Yeah, it's a dark
chainsaw
comedy,
arm,
yeah.
and it's hilarious.
Mhm.
But anyway, what I'm getting at here is it's kind of similar with that. Now with One Piece, are those games continuations of each other, or are they retellings of the same thing?
They're okay. This one's a little weird because they are retellings, but also continuations. So, theoretically, I guess you could just go to the latest One Piece Muso game. But the thing is, though, the first one had cutscenes where you could interact, like sort of QuickTime interact to get some extra coins. Now, you could argue that got annoying because that wasn't in the later two games. Because you could skip the cutscenes if you missed the coins that way. The second game got more just basic mechanics, and the third game kind of stuck with what it was good at. But in each case, the games go further into the story because there's more story to go into. And they also get more specific. For example, in the first game, there was no Thriller Bark arc, and like at all. And I don't believe they had Skypiea either. And then the second game did include those, and those weren't like the first arcs or anything. Those were arcs that were just not in the first game, but they were in the middle of the story, but the second game covered them. And the third game, it covered like minor characters from the very first arcs, and more specific stuff that you wouldn't think that they would bother with. And they're continuing the story. So each game is kind of like, you can argue it's kind of a replacement for its predecessor. So I guess it's kind of like Dynasty Warriors in that regard, except for the fact that there's more story to actually go over. So so if you wanted to buy a One Piece Muso game for the first time right now, I would say go with 3. But if you were to buy them as they come out, it's kind of cool each time you do it, because it's like, oh, a later arc that the previous game didn't have because it didn't exist yet. I wonder how that plays. So there's just kind of a little bit of magic in that. But when the One Piece anime finally ends, you can probably just buy the latest One Piece Muso game and call it a day. But as they come out, it is worth it to buy it as they come out.
Well, yeah, I imagine that I imagine it's kind of like Persona 3, right? Like if you played the original version of
Yeah,
Persona 3, you would want to buy Fez to continue and
yeah,
play like the extra content.
yeah, and then you might want to buy Portable just because it's a better version. But like if you were to go in
Well,
right
there's
now for
actually even more content
and even
in
more, yeah.
P3P because you could play as a girl in the
Oh, that's
first
right. They
in
like
the
forehead. So, but yeah,
yeah.
if you were to go in for the first time right now, just Portable.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
the
Okay.
end. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Fans of it will want the extra content and extra,
Yeah.
building upon. But like, why would you recommend to somebody who's new to it to go
Yeah,
do it?
like again, you could check earlier games for the novelty of slightly different gameplay mechanics and maybe different features, but if you're in it for the One Piece experience, then the current one is where it's at.
It's pretty funny. I don't know. I, that series of games is just so funny. I can't believe they keep doing this. They keep getting away with the same gimmick. They're like, okay, let's make this game, and then we're just gonna make the same game next time, but we're gonna improve it and
Yeah, and
elaborate.
it works, which is amazing. Although what I find kind of cool is Dragon Quest Heroes. Like I didn't play the Dragon Quest games, but there's more to it than grinding in that game. Like there's like more of the RPG mechanics,
Hmm.
and you can like control different characters in your party and have them do like magic attacks, physical attacks, and there's actually a hub world when you're done, which I've never seen in a Muso game before. Like you go back to home base and buy stuff at a shop, which I mean you could buy stuff via in-game menu in One Piece, but there's like you can go to a shop, you can go buy equipment like in Dragon Quest Heroes. That's very different from other Muso games I've seen.
Gotcha. All right. Are you playing anything else?
As of now, not really. I'm kind of like messing around a little bit with the Binding of Isaac Rebirth, but my casual game right now is
Or Afterbirth, right?
yeah, with the expansion Afterbirth. My casual just game that I'm focusing on right now is Pirate Warriors 3. I'm not currently recording anything for Let's Play because I have done a ridiculous amount of editing lately, and I want to kind of chill a little bit. The next game I Let's Play, I actually have to really think about that. But after One Piece Pirate Warriors 3, I'm probably going to jump on JoJo Eyes of Heaven because I've wanted that for a long time.
See, I have no idea what I'm gonna play after Uncharted 4. I'm leaning towards going back and trying to play Demon Souls again. Um,
That's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, my problem is I've started and stopped Demon Souls like 3 or 4 times, just like I usually do. I've done in the
Yeah,
past with certain games.
that you really can't do because with some games you've already said that you forgot what you're doing, but with Demon Souls, like
You really don't know
if you
what
get
you're
out of
doing.
practice, you're gonna get well. You don't really need to know what you're doing. It's like beat the level, but like you're gonna get your ass kicked.
I guess the reason why I stopped playing last time is because I locked myself out of a very useful power.
Yeah, that sucks. Demon Souls will do that to you.
And I didn't know that was.
Oh, you spent the Demon Soul on Souls?
Yeah, I used I used the dragon
Yeah,
soul
yeah.
from the final boss of the second level, the second world.
Oh, the
I
Dragon God. Yeah,
yeah.
he teaches you some good stuff.
Well, you get the best fire magic from that soul, and
Hmm.
I didn't realize that was even a mechanic.
Yeah, they don't really specify that like
So
very clearly at
I
first.
used it up for a whole bunch of souls, and now I'm like, I don't even want to play anymore.
That'll
That's my
happen.
problem with that,
That'll
like,
happen. I
and
mean, I've
now I need
restarted.
to restart, and I need to slog my way through killing the red dragon in World One.
Yeah, that thing sucked.
And it takes like an hour to beat. It's just
Yeah, like actual in-game time for me was like 9, 10, or 11 minutes or something, and that's just mindless shooting with
yeah.
arrows. Like, oh my god,
That's not even a challenge. It's just you have to just
do it, buy
do
arrows
it.
and do it.
Yeah.
But like as for the next game, like I Let's Play though, that's a much tougher call because there are series that I've kind of dropped that I would like to get back to, like Resident Evil or Dino Crisis or Parasite Eve or
I really want to play
Tower or
Resident Evil
something.
6. Speaking of,
Mm.
I know it's not everybody's favorite, but I still
See what happens.
I just want to play it,
Hmm.
But
I'm
the
I'm
reason
still
why I
working on
haven't played it.
PS1 Resident Evil games.
Well, the reason why I haven't played it is because I really want to co-op it, and
Yeah, no, I get that.
because I co-opted 5 and I loved it because I was co-oping 5. You
Hmm.
know, 5. Say what you want about 5. It's a really fun co-op experience.
Yeah, to play a video game, Resident Evil 5 is a lot of fun.
And it's much better if you have a friend with you, like a lot of other things
Yeah, from
is.
what I've heard,
But
that's kind of the way to play it.
so I figure 6 is very much the same way. You know, if you have a friend
I
with you, like I'm
yeah, would
sure it's
not
a
be
lot better.
surprised. Yeah,
So I know it's not the best game in the world, but if I have a friend there, it's going to be a lot of fun.
oh for
So
sure.
I'm kind of him and hawing because I can't find anybody to play with me.
Yeah, at some point, man, I'm gonna eventually work my way up to it.
Yeah, we should definitely do it.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, I just got so many Resident Evil games to play through. There's like freaking like I think there's over 20 now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're going to want to do. You're gonna do all the side games, right?
Yeah, the only points of contention I might have are like the Outbreak games because those are crazy hard. Like those are ridiculous because those are designed for like 4 players.
Is there any way to spoof? Can you land those?
I don't know. If possible, then you could at least do 2 players.
Yeah, because I'll land those with you.
Or if you could hook, or actually, I wonder if you could hook up 2 PS2s together. I don't know if you could like split screen each of them and do like a 4 player LAN. I don't know if that's possible though.
I don't think so because the only games that you could link that way were with the FireWire cable. On the early PS2s, like
Okay.
that FireWire port isn't even on the thin ones.
Oh jeez. Okay.
So like the only games that I know of that work with that are a couple racing games and Time Crisis 2 and 3.
Oh, that's cool.
You could play those on 2 separate linked PS2s. I know that.
Oh, that's rad.
But if you don't want to do the split screen.
Yeah, I gotcha. You could do like a full screen with each. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
like the arcade setup.
It's basically you have the arcade setup if you
That's
do that.
rocking.
I know some of the Ridge Racer games I think allow you to do that too,
I gotcha.
but not many games have that feature, and because like who would do that? You need to have you need to have 2 systems,
2 old
2
PS2s,
TVs.
a FireWire, yeah, 2 TVs right next to each other.
I mean, it's a cool feature, but
Yeah, you're not gonna do it, but you could.
Like, first of all, who has 2 TVs in the same room? I mean,
exactly, right next to each other.
You're gonna have to bring a TV down.
Yeah,
down there.
you'd have to specifically set that up, or go to like some sort of place that's designed specifically for that.
Yeah, I mean, like when I was a kid, I brought around my TV and my Xbox everywhere because we had Halo LAN matches. That was awesome.
That's rocking.
But like, that was the only game that ever became popular to do that with. Like, I don't know of any game after that or before it where people actually like brought over their TVs to other people's houses to play that. I'm pretty sure only Halo 1 and Halo 2 people ever did that with, because it was just so much fun.
Absolutely.
But I don't think anybody ever did that with any other game really. But what I'm saying here is maybe we can do it with 2 Ethernet. With an Ethernet cable, we might be able to.
That'd be interesting.
To LAN it, but I need to look that up.
And even then, I'm sure it'll still be ludicrously difficult because that game is hard.
Wouldn't it be cool if we did a 3-player one with Pyro, Jack Frost, and linked up 3 PS2s?
That'd be hysterical.
LAN style, and just played them throughout the course of a night. And see if we could get through at least, the first game.
That would be a challenge. That'd be amazing, though.
Like, we would need to see if we could get the monitors to do it, but
that's the thing. Yeah,
I'm sure it would be. I need to look this up. I need to see if you can land that game, because I know it was a PlayStation. It was one of the very first PS2 online games, right?
I think so.
Yeah, and we would of course need 4 copies of Outbreak.
Yeah, great. Yeah. You all know somebody with Resident Evil Outbreak for the PS2.
You're the only person I know of that still has that game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like when I play 4-player Resident Evil Deadly Silence. It's like,
It's like I kind of want to play it just like I don't even think it'll be fun, but I think it'll be fun to do it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. It's like just because you didn't think anybody would actually do it.
Well, it's one of those things like if you have your friends like and you're playing something crappy, it's still fun
Oh
because you're
yeah.
with your friends. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it. What's that?
I was gonna say see also like that stupid Sega Saturn binge we had that one night
Oh, that was awesome. We were playing Skeleton Warriors.
playing
And,
Congo the movie the game.
oh my god, that's probably the worst first person shooter I've ever played. Like I'm trying to think. Like I don't think there's anything worse than that game.
It's pretty amazing.
It's a bad adaptation of a bad adaptation
Yup.
of an average Michael Crichton book.
Yeah, it was all right.
It's about monkeys. Don't steal the diamonds from the monkeys. That's what I learned.
But it's an important lesson though.
Yeah, because monkeys need diamonds. I don't know why they need them, but
They're shiny and pretty.
they're shiny and chrome.
Wow, mediocre.
That was a mediocre joke. Well, yeah. So anything else for the good of the order, Lotus?
For the good of the order.
Yeah.
Well, you go in numerical order, probably ascending.
I like alphabetical.
That's also fair.
Descending.
Oh no. This was not a turn I thought we would take. Oh god. But
Conflicting OCD.
but otherwise, no, I think I'm about set. I mean, just
So see
a
how
good
we
time
had
doing what we
nothing
do?
planned and we had tons
Yeah.
of stuff to talk about.
remember that time this podcast was gonna be about what we're doing, and it was about everything.
Well, that's kind of what
I mean,
I
that's what
thought
makes
it
it
would
fun,
be.
yeah.
This is what I thought it would be.
Remember that time Achilles and Agamemnon?
I'm essentially this is us recording a phone call because
this
we
really
always
is,
talk
yeah.
about we just talk about this kind of junk when
we didn't even
when we call
realize
each other.
we didn't even realize there were listeners. Like, I don't even know how this got onto the internet.
But
This was never meant to be.
yeah, I started this as like a way of recording. I think we have interesting conversations, and so and our conversations have really good segues. So I wanted to
Absolutely.
publicize it. Plus, we have fans of our Let's Plays that our joint Let's Plays. So
Yeah, if you've ever wondered how we just kind of chatted up, like, you figured it out.
Yeah, so like we could do this even without a video game prompting us. So
That's true.
I wanted to get this as a mouthpiece of what we're doing and also an explanation of what's going on in our lives and our thought processes and our interests. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I think this will be great. And
Sure
please
thing.
let us know how much you liked it, and also see if you would like a little bit more structure. If this kind of thing bugs you, maybe we'll come up with a little bit more structure. But
Yeah, definitely hit us up with anything regarding that kind of stuff, like subject matter, attitude, like length. I don't know if you want longer, shorter, or anything like that. Just hit us up
especially
with
if you
your-
want us to have more Greek mythology discussion rather than the stuff you actually want to hear.
Yeah, if you ever wanted to learn more about Menelaus, then I mean, you pretty much got it actually from this one. So you're good. So stop asking. Leave me alone.
Menelaus fangirls are spinning around like.
Yeah, too bad he already married the woman who was so beautiful that she launched 1,000 ships.
What a jerk.
And this is after she was madly in love with Paris. So
Doesn't she just pick somebody? It's
yeah,
her fault.
the war happened. Then Menelaus and Helen hooked up, and I think this podcast is over. I'm ruining it.
But there are plenty of fish in the sea. I don't know why they should have just let her go. I mean, really.
I mean, it would have saved the lives of
Everyone.
thousands of people. It's all because Paris. It's all because Paris chose Aphrodite instead of Hera or Athena in Which of Us is the Prettiest. Damn it, Paris.
All right, we've lost our entire audience.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. If three goddesses ever ask you to choose which one of them is the best, you just say I can't decide, and you get the hell out of there.
If anybody asks you if you are a god, you
You say
yes.
All right, so this has been a great time. I'm super sorry for everything I've done. I've ruined it all. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and until next time.
Until next time, see ya.